Hi, Don Bolt back with you for part 3 of our theology review for the comparative worldviews course that I'm teaching in the 2013-2014 school year. So where we're picking up for part 3 here is with the Islamic view with regard to their theology. Okay, some of the things that you're going to need to know for the test, they're all on the review sheet that you can pick up at the blog site right here. Okay, it's on the screen. All right, and anyways, so we begin with just there are two sacred books. Okay, the Quran, which we'll put again, this will all be up on the screen for you to get the spellings. But the Quran and the Hadith. The Quran, that would be the basic sacred text, for people that are Islamic. Okay, the Hadith is an additional sacred book. And from my understanding of it, it is considered to be not quite as authoritative as the Quran, and but the Quran is this revelation about what it means to be obedient to Allah, which is the name of the God that they worship. All right, and the Hadith is a record of the exemplary deeds of Muhammad and his closest associates. Okay, so both are looked to as sacred books. Okay, they are in their theology Unitarian theists. Okay, they believe in one God, to the point where they are extremely anti-Trinitarian. Okay, if you believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as being one God, in three persons eternally existent, they no, one God, no complexities to this one God. Okay, and there's different arguments that can be raised about all that. Won't get into that now, but just to be aware that that's where they stand. Okay, they would look at people because Islam goes back to Abraham. Abraham's son Ishmael, okay, is considered to be the founder, if you will, of this direction that eventually arises as modern Islam. Okay, and they would view him as Abraham's firstborn and would tend to think, well, so therefore he's the legitimate heir of Abraham instead of what we believe coming from our Bible. All right, so they look at people like Abraham, Moses, even Jesus as people who, along with Muhammad, all taught Islam. Islam is submission. Okay, that's what it means, submission. And so what it was, they're all trying to bring this revelation, but the revelation wasn't quite clear and straight and right until Muhammad, who is considered to be the final prophet, that we're going to receive, from God. All right. There are 5, or for some people 6, pillars of Islam. You should know them. All right. The confession of faith that Allah is God and that there's only one God, is Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. That's the confession of faith in Islam. Okay, they have prayer that they are to do 5 times a day. That was kind of a bargaining thing where originally Allah had told Muhammad in their writings that he wanted people to pray enormous amounts of times. He eventually got it down to 5 times a day. So prayer 5 times a day is the second pillar. Third pillar, fasting during Ramadan, their high holy day. Almsgiving, very important to Muslims. Okay, they give 2.5% of their income to the poor. Pilgrimage to Mecca at least one time in your life. And then the 6th one, which they would say that not everybody claims as a pillar of Islam, would be jihad, or the idea of holy war, the idea that we are in a conflict with misdeeds and with those who commit them and with those who are not faithful to Islam until the whole world becomes Muslim. All right, so those are the things you're going to need to know on Islamic theology. We'll get into their history in the next section, but this time, just if you know those things, that's good. All right, postmodern view. Okay, the postmodern movement, if you will, got a lot of its impetus from people who had very idealistically started to pursue Marxism. All right, but as they say, they got tired of the body count. All right, the people who were being wiped out, okay, because they were not moving the right way to cause Marxism to succeed, the body count just got to be too much. And some of this is a little interpretive on my part, but they came away from that having pursued it as an ideal, and I think they just began to think, maybe there is no ideal, maybe there is no absolute truth that can be argued for. All right, and so they stepped into this what becomes this postmodern move. Okay, there were already people who were espousing these things, Nietzsche and others, but it starts to really grow from this outflow of people coming into the movement out of Marxism. So you'll see sometimes some kind of things where you think, now why are they saying that if they're postmodern? And it's because they may still have some left leftover things, from their Marxist days. Okay, so along comes Nietzsche. Okay, and I always say I'm terrible at spelling Nietzsche, but we'll put it up on the board here so that you can take a look at it. Okay, Nietzsche comes along, and basically what he's saying is God is dead. All right, not that God ever existed, but Nietzsche said we made God unbelievable. All right, so very important thing to know. Nietzsche, God is dead, not that he ever existed. We made him unbelievable. And then comes this other piece of this, the abolition of man, because once you dispense with God, once you take God out of the picture, how do you secure the idea of the specialness of humanity, that we are anything other than an accidentally evolved animal? All right, and so so this idea of the abolition of man is a special creation of God, as if having any basis to argue for specialness, other than just abilities that we have that might be beyond other creatures on the planet. Okay, I'm calling them creatures. That means created things. Okay, so so as a Christian, I'm still I use that term. Okay, all right. That for the postmodern. Okay. They don't believe there is any absolute truth. Okay, I think that they really are pursuing sort of the outcome of the atheism that they've been in. All right, which is that if there is no God, then really there is no truth. Okay, and so they have this idea that there's no capital T truth, no objective truth that can be argued for, and so lacking that yardstick. All right, they believe that truth, if anything, is a small T truth, and that it arises from communities, and so. They then pursue this a bit further, and they begin to practice something called deconstruction. All right, so in order to grasp this, you have to understand that they view all of our perceptions as constructs. In other words, there's no validity to them, no way to prove their validity, because again, we're lacking this yardstick that says, is that right, wrong, is that good, or is that valuable? How do we know? All right, and so the idea that somebody said something or wrote something a long time ago. I pick it up today, and they meant one thing by it. I pick it up means something different to me. My perception of what this means is as valid, in fact, perhaps for me more valid even than what the person meant when they wrote it. Okay, and so this idea that reality and truth are constructs that we made. They're attempts at control. They're attempts at controlling others. I assert that what I believe is the truth. And so you should believe it, you should practice it. By so doing, I'm trying to control you, and that's illegitimate because I have no basis for saying that my beliefs are better than yours. All right? And so this kind of got them into a little bit of a trap theologically, okay? Because most of these people, a vast majority of them, were absolutely atheists, okay? And so they come into this thing saying, well, there is no God. Well, wait, are you sure about that? Are you absolutely sure? You can hear the argument, all right? Because if you're saying there's no absolute truth, well, then how can you absolutely say there is no God? So they embrace something called religious pluralism, which basically says, well, I'm an atheist, but if you embrace belief in God, I have no basis on which to tell you that you're wrong, so that may be your truth and I've got my truth, all right? Okay, so a problem arises here with the whole idea of knowledge, okay? Because having a God means I have a source of revelation. You might remember this thing we talked about. When you hit the limits of what your senses can teach you, you are stuck with either just give up and don't know anything, or use either revelation, the idea that something greater than you is revealing something, or your imagination, internal workings to decide what you think is beyond there, okay? But this whole problem with knowledge, if I just accidentally evolved, my perceptions, I don't even have a basis for arguing that my perceptions give me anything that even approaches something called truth, or that truth even exists, all right? And so, there's this analogy that they use, and it's the map and the Mapmaker, and you need to know this analogy well, okay? You need to be able to explain it, all right, not just repeat it, okay? All right, so, and here's the analogy. Okay, what if we found a map, all right, and this map purported to tell us something about, let's just use the idea, we found a map of Rochester, all right, and it purports to be a map of Rochester. It says this is a map of Rochester. What are the possible problems with this map? Okay, and the first one is, if we take that map and we overlay it over reality, here's some problems. What if the Mapmaker was mad? What if the Mapmaker was crazy? What if what he was doing was not even right at the time that he wrote it? Okay, problem number one. Problem number two, what if we can't interpret the map properly? Okay, in other words, where that person was culturally and what they were thinking and what they meant by what they said is so different from the way we think that we can't interpret it properly. Third problem, and that is, what if things have changed? things have changed since the map was. If we picked up a 300-year-old map of Rochester, a 200-year-old map of Rochester, obviously a lot has changed in that time. So maybe the map isn't even valid anymore. And then the fourth one that is not listed here, but be good for you to be aware of it, is the whole idea of what if the map had deteriorated to the place where maybe it was originally accurate, but it's no longer accurate because it's deteriorated with time. And so this analogy, all right? And so if you know those things, you'll know what you need to know about postmodern theology as well, okay? Now, a couple of miscellaneous at the end here. Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, okay? I want you to be aware of the basic story that underlies this axiom that is attributed to Dostoevsky, and that is that if there is no God, then everything is permissible. All right, the idea that, wait a minute, once you take God out of the formula, once you take God out of this, then who is there to ever correct me? Who is there? On what basis can I argue that any action is wrong? And so therefore, everything becomes permissible. In the Brothers Karamazov, we start off with three Brothers Karamazov and the father, who is a wicked man. All right, and so what happens is that these three brothers are, coming along. We hear this whole story, and what it is that the father has been holding out. He has not been giving these boys the part of the inheritance that they're supposed to get while he's still alive. Okay, it's like an endowment. All right, and so there's all this anger and argument and everything. And we eventually realize there is a fourth brother in the family. What is he? He's an illegitimate son of their father, a guy by the name of Smerdakov. Smerdakov is kind of collecting what the other brothers are saying, all right, and what they're doing, all right. And so in the end, somebody kills the father, all right. And so when they come down to trying to solve the mystery eventually as to who did this, the courts decide who they think did it, and they basically convict the wrong man. But eventually they realize Smerdakov did it. Smerdakov killed him. He was living in the house with the father still, and one of the brothers comes by and drops off a brass implement, all right, and that becomes the murder weapon, all right. The second brother leaves him alone with the father, all right, and the third brother is a fellow who is studying for the priesthood, and he is asked by Smerdakov, about right and wrong, but what if there were no God? And so Alyosha, the brother who was studying for the priesthood, makes this statement that, approximately is translated into English as, well, but if there were no God, then any of a number of things could be considered. In other words, if there is no God, then everything is permissible, is what he's saying there. And so he leaves, and Smerdakov asserts that you wanted me to kill him. You gave me the murder weapon, you gave me the opportunity, and you gave me the motive. You gave me the reasoning, that when you reasoned that if there were no God, then it could possibly be right to kill him. I took that as the signal that you all wanted him dead, and so they killed him, and this is the basis, the underlying story from this. Okay, and so other than that, I just want to make one more reference to the book Eternity in Their Hearts by Don Richardson. It's a good book that will help you with some of these ideas about this basic revelation. And with that, God bless you. Hope you're ready for the test. If not, be sure to contact me, and I'll be very, very happy just to help you get ready. God bless you. Bye-bye.